L&D teams like yours are eager to collect and use training analytics data, but effective dashboards are missing for most learning platforms. That's because analytics dashboards are challenging to implement, and every end user wants something just a bit different. Some analytics tools expect that you're a stats major, which most of us aren't. If you're a business user like me, you're going to love using the free PowerBI app from Microsoft. PowerBI will easily allow you to create custom dashboards in minutes. Very easy to use, and it has a ton of power when you need to dig deep. In this video, I'm going to show you how to download the PowerBI app, how to import your data, how to set up your own custom dashboards, how to filter and slice and dice your data, and finally, how to export it to share it with others. Ready to get started? Let's dive in. Right, so the first thing you need to do is you need to download the free Power BI desktop app. You can get that from the Power BI website, or you can get it from the Microsoft Store, whatever you prefer. And many organizations already work with Microsoft, have Office 365 installed, which means that you probably already have access to Power BI. Either way, you can get it, you can download it, and what you're going to get if you just download and run Power BI desktop is going to be this. What we're going to do is we're going to import a sample LMS data file. It's all test data. This is what it looks like. So we've got a bunch of different users here. We've got some course information, some enrollment information, interactions, questions, answers, that sort of thing. So this is all test data, but it's roughly the kind of data that you would get in any LMS platform. Let's take a look at what we're going to do here. With Power BI, first thing you want to do is you really want to import some data. There's a bunch of different ways you can do that. We're going to focus on importing from Excel. So we click on that, and we're going to click our sample data file here. Power BI is really, really smart about data. It's going to, first of all, this isn't the super smart part, but it's going to pick out all the different tabs that we have. So it's why it's so easy to work with Excel. And we are just going to bring them all in. I don't know if we're going to use them all in examples in this particular video, but we'll import them all. So you can see that they're all there. You can see that Power BI has taken the first row as headers for everything. So that looks really, really good. So we're just going to load in the data. So this is the really smart part, because what Power BI needs to do is not just load in the data, but actually look for relationships. And so you may have noticed that the columns are named in such a way that related data has the same column name. So that's going to tell Power BI that they're the same data. And what it's going to do is it's going to build a relationship map with all that data. So boom, there it is. We've got all of our data here ready to go. But before we do that, let me show you the relationship map. And this is one of the wonderful things about Power BI is it does all of this for you. It's associated all of the different tables together. So for instance, the question attempts maps to the answers through the answer ID, and this maps to the question ID. So all of that happens for you automatically by Power BI. Now, that isn't to say that there may not be times that you have to do tweaks to this. That's more of an advanced topic. We can cover that in a different video, but most of the time it's going to just work. Okay, so the data is all related. Power BI has done that heavy work for us, and now we're going to do reports. So we're going to start off with some very simple things. This is our desktop. Okay, you can have multiple different pages, which we'll look at. First thing we're going to do is we're going to add a data card, pretty much the simplest type of data that you can present. So what I want here is I want to have the total number of users. So I'm going to go over to my users here, and I just want to have the total number of users. I know every user has a user ID, so I'm going to drag in my user ID into this card here. Now, Power BI is really, really smart, right? It kind of figures out what you probably want to do. So in this case, it just counts the number of user IDs. I already know that the user IDs are unique. So if they weren't unique, I could say count distinct, but they are unique already. So I'm just going to make this learners. So now I have my number of learners there, and I'm going to just change the size of this box a little bit, make it a bit smaller. There's a bunch of different styling things that you can do. We're just going to ignore that. But I've copied and pasted that because I also now want to have the number of courses. So we're going to do pretty much the same thing. Just drop in the number of courses and boom. So now I've got number of learners, number of courses. It's test data, so it's very conveniently at exactly 10. I'm going to add one more to this. Let's see here, copy and paste that. And let's pick enrollments. This time I'm going to pick the enrollment ID, same reason. Okay, got a few more enrollments there. Boom, there we go. Now I want to add a logo. A little sample data requires a sample logo. So let me add that now. Go over to insert here and go to image and pick my logo. There we go. And I'm going to stick that in the corner. All right. There's a lot more that you can do in terms of styling, and we're just going to ignore pretty much all of that right now and really just focus on doing things within the interactions and the widgets. All right. So we've got a little bit of information here, really, really quick and easy to do. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a table. So let's say that I want to have all of my users located, or a little data grid of all my users. So I'm just going to drag the name in. Boom. There it is. There's my grid of my name. And I'm going to add the location for each of my learners. And let's say that I want to have a total count of their enrollments. Then I'm going to add that. PowerBI already understands that. I'm just going to rename this enrollments, and I'm going to rename this to have a capital N. There, nice and simple. I got name, location, and total number of enrollments. Really easy. Now, I know that all of my users have gotten quizzes and doing some other stuff, but we're going to keep it really easy for this first part here. That's all I want to see is the number of enrollments, right? In my first example. So I'm going to move this over here. What I'd also like to see, in fact, let me put it in the bottom here, is so you can see here that we've got location information, right? So we can do something cool with that. We can put it onto a map. So let's try that. Let's see here. Let's pick our map component. There's a couple different mapping options. I'm just going to pick the sort of the standard map, and I'm going to stick it there. I'd like to have my map above my data. So I'm just going to format that. And you know what? Let me make this line up with that. I like things that line up. All right, there we go. And in this map here, I am going to say that I want the location to be the location. Now remember, this location field is like New York, Calgary, New Zealand, right? So very, very broad locations, but it's going to deal with that. And I want to have my users to show up on the legend. Now, I probably wouldn't want to do that in most cases because I'd have hundreds or thousands of users, but in this case, it works, all right? And so here I am, and I can see my users that are located in each area here by city. So I've got that. So one of the great things about Power BI is it automatically relates the data when you import it to find the relationships, but those relationships carry forward. So let's say that in here, I'm going to click on Claire. Now it's going to automatically zoom me in, right? Claire's in New Zealand, zoomed me right into New Zealand because that's where Claire is. And I can say, oh, okay, well, let me go to Frank Wilson in New York. Boom. I've got Frank Wilson and it's in New York. Obviously, if you had addresses or other things in there, it would be more detailed, right? And you'd be able to zoom into a particular address. That could be in the location data. Or if you have Latin long data, you could do that as well. But I'm going to change the bubble size now. I'm going to make the bubble size the number of enrollments, right? So I'm going to pick the enrollment ID here and throw it into the bubble size, and that automatically is the sum. So now all of a sudden my bubbles are different, right? Because now I have the enrollments. Right? And again, I can just rename it to be enrollments. Now, there's a bunch of stuff you can do in the background of Power BI to make these things come up by default, but you don't need to. So I'm going to now clean up my data by putting my legend as a location here, right? So now I can just click on New York here or click on Calgary and it'll change it on the map. Or I can click down here, click back on Frank. And so now I've got Frank, click back. Now I've zoomed in on Frank and I can zoom out just by tapping anywhere, right? And so my bubble size now is based on the number of enrollments. So down here, I think this is Frank, only 34 enrollments, but Wisconsin here has had 102 enrollments. Now let's say in this particular pop-up, I wanted to see the person's name. I can do that. I can add it as a tooltip, right? So I can just add name as a tooltip there now, and I hover and I've got it as a tooltip. Okay, super, super easy to do. Let me add another couple of widgets here to show you what else can be done. Just really, really simple stuff. I'm going to add a donut chart down here. Let's put it down there. And I want this donut chart to be the number of enrollments by location. Again, really, really simple things. So I'm going to pick location as the legend, and I'm going to pick the number of enrollments as the value, right? Okay, super easy. And again, everything gets related. So when I pick one of these, right, it not only changes the map, but it also changes this, right? Really easy. This is exactly what you want to have in analytics. You don't want to have to think about all these relationships. You want them to happen for you automatically. And it would be the same thing with each of these different types. And then there's so many different options and visualizations, and we'll get into them in other videos. But right now I'm showing you just how easy it is to actually put some of this data together. So what we're going to do is we're going to now do something which is going to finish off this video, which is adding slicers. Because often, like, you can click around on the data and so forth, but often you want to be able to just filter the data. So I'm going to move this back over here, and I'm going to pick our slicer. So the slicer basically is a way that you can slice data, right? So let's say that we wanted to be able to maybe pick by the learner's name, right? So try that again. There we go. So we've got the learner's name here. And if I pick one of these names, it automatically will slice everything else to focus on this, right? This is cool. This is what we want, but I don't want to take this big space. So I'm going to go into the formatting here, and I am going to say that I want this to be a dropdown. There it is, nice and formatted as a dropdown. So I am going to make that a bit smaller here, open that up. Still works, right? Perfect. Okay, so again, I'm going to rename this, like everything to be nice and neat. So I'm going to say its name, or actually I think I was using learner. So learner. All right, perfect. So I've got a learner here. And what I'm going to do is I am going to just make a couple copies of it. And I'm going to show you just how easily you can slice and dice your data. So I'm going to go to this learner here, and I'm going to say, I want this to be courses. So I'm going to just make it the course name. Perfect. And now exactly as you think would happen. So here we are, right? Not all the courses have enrollments, but I can filter it all there. And this one, I'm going to make, let's see here. I want this to be by location. So I'm going to do that. And again, you guessed it. Here's all the different locations. So I'm going to get rid of that one and show you how to create a bit of a different slicer. So I'm going to add a different slicer here, because what I'd like to actually see is a time range. So I'm going to have that there. I'm going to drag in the enrollment date into that. And I am going to just change the settings of it and let me see here, not a vertical list, for after drop down. Here's some different options. So I can pick this, which is last 30 days, for instance, right? And then that would change all the data there. But I'm going to pick a different style just to show you the different things it can be. This is the one I use the most, which is between. So what between does is it does exactly what you'd expect, which is showing all the data between two different dates. And then you can change those dates. And here we are. So now I can zero in on my data, right? By date, I can filter it by learner, course, location, lots of different options. All of this stuff gets updated automatically. And this really just scratches the surface of everything that you can do with Power BI. Now, if I was doing this, without talking through it, it probably would take me 2 minutes or so. And again, I'm a business user. I'm just like you, just trying to work with data to get particular answers that I need. One more thing I'm going to show you, and then we're going to end this video, which is how to export this out. Lots of things that you can do to export this out. I just want to show you that you can export it and export to PDF. Now, there's different ways that you can use Power BI in a collaborative sense, being able to share it with different people in your company, and we'll cover that in future videos. And that's it. In this video, you've learned how easy it is to get started with Power BI, import your data, build your dashboards, do some filtering and some slicing. Want to do more? Want to dig deeper? Well, there's lots of great resources about Power BI online. Need some help? We can assist you in building your perfect training analytics dashboard, and not just training data, but also bringing in your analytics data from operational areas like sales and health and safety, call center statistics, whatever it is, whatever the data is that you care most about, we can marry that with your training data in order to show you if your training is actually improving the operational metrics that you really care about. That's it for now. Thanks a lot.